Welcome everyone, thank you for tuning in. This is the MSV podcast. Here we talk about crypto. My name is Sabi, I am your host today. Let's start. Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in for another episode of the MSV podcast. Today we will talk about an era which is not forgotten but maybe in disappearing. Please welcome my guest today, Carl from 27 Comics. Hi Carl, thank you for joining me. How are you?
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Excited to have this conversation today.
Yes, my pleasure. My pleasure. So your project is very special because you are resurrecting the comic books in the digital era. Can we discuss about this? What was the plan? And maybe in the meantime, if you could give us also a background about yourself and about the project, that would be very appreciated.
Yeah, I'll give a little background myself first. So I started my career in nightlife promotions, and then at one point I was doing about 500 plus events a year, and then met a few really creative, talented individuals, and decided to venture into talent management. And so that went on for about 15 years with a 6 times platinum record and a gold record, and even a TV show. And then hit a bit of a kind of a quarter life crisis when I got back into Hollywood and ended up venturing into. Thought I was going to get into producing as I started working for this producer, but ended up starting an events company. And the events company was serving all the movie studios to help them produce events at these Comic Cons all over the world. And so during that time was, I think, when my comic book love reinvigorated. A little bit background, kind of further back on comic books itself. I came to America when I was a very young kid. I had no friends. I didn't speak the language, and comic books saved my life because I looked forward every week to Comic Book Wednesdays, and I bought a stack of comics, and I would come back and just dive into them. And that's how I learned the language. That's how I learned about imagination and storytelling. But what's more important was during this time when I was doing events, I was able to kind of reconnect with a lot of like artists and writers. And then fast forward again, a couple of years ago, I ended up partnering with someone, a movie studio in Taiwan, to want to create film and TV projects. And then we decided we want to go after comic book projects to turn into film and TV. But then none of them were available. And so another friend suggested I go and ask some of these creators I know, like if they have any projects they want to produce or turn into comics, and I found out there was. And so that's kind of how 24/7 Comics started, and also a little bit about my background.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very interesting to hear, because I was just thinking before our conversation about comic books. I never was a big comic book reader, and I think I can say that when I think about comic book or hear about comic book, probably I just imagine from the first second the Marvel universe, for example, and so many movies in the last 15 years were made from the comic books, the DC, the Marvel. I mean, those are the basic. But I don't know if there are new comic books. Maybe you can help me with that. If the comic books in like a new edition or new stories are produced in the same speed, let's say, as they were in the 70s, 80s.
Sure. I mean, yeah, comic book is alive and well. The market is going. There are some of the greatest art I've seen in my lifetime. And I know a lot of folks think about the big two, which is Marvel and DC, when they think comic books. There's so many different companies, Dark Horse, Aftershock. There's this Image, obviously, which is creator owned. Even globally, there's also so many interpretations, meaning like European comics are kind of set up as kind of magazine / graphic novel format, as well as Japan. There's manga in Asia, and China, manhwa is a big thing. And so obviously in Korea is webtoons. And so the comics are still embraced. They're just now in many different formats. What we're doing, though, is we are adapting comic books for Web3. Now, the reason why Web3 is the perfect platform is because when I was growing up, at least in the 90s, comic books were selling millions and millions of copies. I mean, Jim Lee's X-Men #1, that one sold almost 9 million copies. And so I always wonder, like, where did all that money go? Where did all that demand go? And what I realized is the traditional US floppy, which is like the soft cover comic books, just never adapted to what the new generation needed and wanted. And so what happened was, there was a always great stories, great art, right? That's the simplicity of it all, which is a model we stand by. And then two is there was always a market for speculators. So, you would buy a Wolverine #1 limited series by Frank Miller, and then you'll read it. And then a few months later, someone's offering you 20 times what you pay for it. And, that's kind of like a kid's stock market, right? And
Yeah.
so that all went away when the popularization of digital comics came around, because it really, all these platforms launched, these apps launched, and the what it was you get to read the comics, but you can't speculate on it. There's no one's gonna buy it from you after you've read it, right? And so what that forced the companies to do was to focus on volume, like, so quantity over quality, because now it's all about advertising. So they allow anyone and everyone to upload comic books on their platforms. And yeah, it drove the traffic they needed to start serving advertisements against it. But what it did was it definitely kind of separate the quality and quantity, the crowds, in a big way. And the quality folks, I think, remain in it's kind of mainstream comic book industry. But like I said, the model never adapted, and so no one really gets to see them. And so I think what's fun about Web3 is the blockchain actually will allow us to bring that speculation aspect back. Although I think, the parallel a lot of people are trying to draw is this idea of selling comic books online that you could own. But I think for us, we're taking it to another level and approaching it from a slight different angle.
Very interesting. Thank you very much. I have 2 points to remark here, because this is not the first time when I hear about volume and quantity. I just saw a debate, and it was not about comics. It was about mainstream media. About content creation and journalism. They said the same thing, because of the hyper consuming of everything which comes across, because of the need of the dopamine. Every industry just switched from having just a few, let's say, with the good quality, to a very big quantity. And I'm not gonna obviously name any streaming platforms, but I think we went in a bad way. Now I can also see that, and as you said, that the consumers are there for the comics, so the demand is there. But in the meantime, maybe can we say in the last 10 years, maybe the quantity was lost, and the good quality didn't adapt to the new industry, or to the digitalization, right?
That's how I would describe it. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we dive in even more, I have a question here, because it is very interesting that I saw on your website that you don't only try to do the digital version, you don't let the physical version go either. Do you think in the future digital and physical art, let's say, because I think comics are more art than content, will coexist? There is going to be a compete between each other, or how do you see in the future?
Not even in the future. I think it's now. I think if you kind of look at the meta, I think everyone's trying to figure out this whole phygital
Yeah.
idea of physical meets digital. It's not a new word. I mean, we used this word like 10 years ago when we used to, like, talk about events and how we want to, like, connect the digital experience with the physical. Now I think there's some clarity as to how a Web3 company must make whatever they're selling real to the consumers. And so you definitely are seeing some of this in fashion. You're definitely seeing this in the collectible side. We have our strategy as well. And, our goal is really to deploy that as a major next phase. And pretty exciting, because I do feel like there's a need for it. And I think at the end of the day, when it comes to comic books, it's more than just comics. It's about collectibles as a whole. And if you think about, there's a kind of famous line from Rob Liefeld, who's a pretty famous comic book artist. He says everything cool in pop culture came from comics, and that's kind of true right now. It's
It is, yeah.
majority of stuff. You go to all the different streaming platforms. There's just a ton of content that all came from comics. So I think this is just the beginning, because for us, we really want to bring back the energy that the 90s had by supporting our creators to tell the stories they want to tell. And often if you kind of have a good sensibility of, like, which creators are being authentic while others are trying to service you with stories they think you like, man, it's such a big difference. You definitely see the heart behind it. And then if you see the heart behind it as an editor, as a publisher, you have to trust that the audience will see the same.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And just your last sentence, about giving something which people might like, and coming up with something from the heart. I think this is, I think, the artists, how should I say it, that is what makes an authentic artist. He just has some kind of a calling. He has a drive, he creates something, and maybe it won't be perfect for everyone, but I think you only need to reach the subculture who resonates maybe on the same energy, on the same frequency as you are. So that is very interesting. Let's talk a bit about the metaverse. Because we now, I think in the last year, since the NFT boom, we are talking more and more about the NFTs, the Web3, and how it will look like. And I think we passed through some phases, let's say, because we started from, okay, metaverse will take over the entire world. We will not go anywhere. We are just going to live with our VRs. And since then, I think we just calmed down a bit. I mean, I can see as months pass, we are calming down and we say, okay, metaverse will be something which we will probably use for entertainment, for education. It is not going to, let's say, compete with life. Okay, so we are still going to go outside. We are not going to live in a dystopian world. So my question is to you: how do you see the metaverse, and how do you think that metaverse will integrate in our life in the next, I don't know, 10 years, maybe 5, I don't know. We will see.
Yeah, no, we've come a long way since 2020. I think there was a moment where all of us were like, are we living at home and interacting through our goggles, I don't know. I personally, I think for the generation, the younger generation, they already know what the metaverse is. Theirs is in the form of gaming. We might call it games, but to them is a metaverse. I mean, Roblox is already a metaverse. So I think there's going to be I think the adaptation is already happening. I think it depends on which age group you're in. If you kind of belong to kind of middle age, you have some familiar with it, but you don't have time. You have everyday life to figure out on how to live and make a living and socializing. When it comes to kind of a younger generation, in the next 5 to 10 years, it's gonna be very natural on the adaptation. And now the middle age, who are kind of the elderly, are gonna have to decide if they want to adapt or not. And so that's almost an ongoing equation when it comes to adaptation. It's you adapt to how you learn. And obviously, like for me, I remember like I was typing. My brother didn't get his my older brother did not get taught how to type till he was like, I think like 15 or 16. For me, I started at like 12. Now kids don't even know how to write anymore. And so like they just type from day one. And so there's a number of us that remember keyboards and still uses keyboards, but you have babies walking on the TV screens pressing buttons on the TV, because all they know is glass. And so I think the metaverse will figure itself out, but not in the way we think. I think it's going to slowly evolve with a new generation who truthfully understands it better than most of the people who are trying to do it now.
Yes. And I also think that a lot of things needs to be figured out, like the labor, for example, of workforce. I mean, in order to live in the metaverse, truly, as we thought in 2020, as the news came in, we would need such an automatization, in the real world, that everyone could just sit inside and just live in this digital world, let's say. But let's go forward and talk about how 24/7 comics will integrate in this foreseeable plugin, let's say, to our life. How should we imagine? What are the plans of integrating your project, your digital and physical comic books into the Web3, into the metaverse?
Sure. Our view on the metaverse is it's already here for us as well. I think we're just using different tools. So I think our tools are for the Web3 space and anyone who's selling digital collectibles, it's pretty clear. I think a very proven utility for any project has been social utility, and that comes in the form of PFPs, because people want identity, right? I think a lot of folks are searching for that, and they want in our most primitive state is tribalism. We want to belong, right? We want to be part of a group. And so I think for us, it's obviously a proven model at this point. The second piece now that we want to prove is ownership. We want to decentralize the franchise business, which has been behind closed doors in Hollywood for so many years and decades now. And so what we're offering our PFP owners will be character ownership, and we want to help usher them into the franchise business. Now, how does that work? They get to be a character in our story. And so the idea is if they really believe in the creator team that's putting together the story, they could participate by buying into a character from that universe. And through the course of the story development, each of our community members can actually we'll have a process that will release where they'll be able to pitch their characters to be part of that story, but ultimately it'll always be the creator team's decision on if a character is integrated. Now the hope is it goes really well, you really believe in the story, we hit the big screen, and one day you could sit in the movie theater and see your character come alive on the big screen in the form of animation or live action. The lines are blurring, but I think that's the hope. And so I think for us is really inviting the community to come along for the ride. And obviously, I think the tools of our current metaverse that I think works really well in Web3 is the Discords, the Twitters of the world. And those are the two tools that I think it's where people are living right now.
Yes, yes. You just said the lines are blurry. I don't see them that blurry, to be honest, because I just think that if somebody really believes, in the future, as you said, and they will be part of the story, and with this digital world, let's say, which we are living in, I think this is a new way to maybe be part of something. Many people are not part of many things, maybe without friends or something. And yes, I think this can be a refugee, let's say, and also probably a good investment. I mean, I don't know where we will go, but yes, I see the thinking behind. I can see the experience you are bringing from Hollywood, as a producer. And it's very interesting how you apply it and try to modernize it. So yeah, thanks for the insight.
Well, the lines of blurring, what I mentioned earlier, was about live action and animation movies. Because if
Okay.
you watch Avengers, I mean, half that thing is like animated,
Yeah.
and so and acting really live action was in front of green screen. They don't even know what their background looks like, and so they
Yeah.
always have these shots of like the actors watching some of the stuff they did. Like, what? That's what's happening, and it's amazing. Like what live action and animation coming together can do. So
We don't even need to talk about the Marvels because, for example, Mr. Beast, probably Mr. Beast
yeah,
YouTube channel,
of
when
course,
he
yeah.
created the how what it was about the TV series, his videos, half of the background was CGI about the
Yeah,
moving parts, and it was
it
it
is.
was for YouTube. I mean, can you
Yeah.
imagine? Now, when we hear CGI, we say, okay, this is Hollywood, hardcore film producing. But yeah, I understand now are still blurry, and animation is not animation as it was 15 years ago.
No, it's definitely, yeah, it's blurring for sure.
Yeah. So I think we touched on the pillars of your project because I could see on the website that you have the vision, you have the creator led, but you also talk about decentralization here. So if I understood it correctly, you will have the characters, people will pitch in, they will kind of own the comics, let's say, but there will be
They own the
also
characters,
the
we own the
characters.
story. Yeah,
Yes.
the creators will own the stories with our team. We will be the ultimate stewards of the story. And the reasoning why is I know there's a lot of like conversations about decentralized storytelling. I think if everyone can tell stories, then you wouldn't have 300 Hollywood writers and directors responsible for 90% of Hollywood's income. So I think it's a very specialized skill set to be able to tell a great story and understand structure. And I think not everyone can do it. And so I want to trust in our creators to do their best work and thus kind of rally the community to come behind it. And so that's kind of the structure of our project.
I agree with you, and I think that is a very good decision. Okay, you also mentioned bridging words, comics, business, and creators. Just in a few words, how this works out, let's say, or how it will look like in the future.
So, I mean, as much as our mission is to adapt comic book industry for Web3, I love the comic book industry. I don't want to leave it behind. And I think a lot of times when new technology comes, it disrupts not only, kind of the new world, but the old world as well. And sometimes it puts the old world out of business. That's not my intention. my intention is to educate and help onboard the old world per se, or folks that are a little bit more traditionalist into what we're doing today, because I do feel like it's time for that. I think people who are fans of comic books also know it's time for that. But for the most part, many kind of either ignore it or they're just set in their ways. I mean, humans don't love change, right? At one point, automobiles was, cars was a bad thing because no one wanted to buy cars, and they said, "Oh, we have our trains, we have our horse and wagons. Why would we want to buy cars, right?" And so now cars is everywhere. So I think people just don't like change, and I totally get it. But I think it's inevitable. I think change has to happen for a industry to move forward. I want to see those numbers like the Jim Lee X-Men #1s again for our creators, because they work so hard on these books and they deserve it. And so much people, kind of even myself included, discount how much heart is poured into each comic book. But man, some of these creators take 2 or 3 days to do one page. And so think about it. Like, if you have to deliver, 22 to 25 pages a month, some of these guys are not sleeping. And so it's very real that in the comic book industry, the amount of work that the creative team puts into a comic book and the rewards that they're getting back is actually misaligned at this point. And so I think there's opportunity to help align that with the creators on the macro level for sure.
I think the what you just said, that the effort which needs to be put in comics or in other art, and the rewards are misaligned. It's very true for many areas, and I think NFTs maybe brought these two extremes, a bit closer, because let's be honest. We can hear hundreds of jokes that if anyone is going to the art school, they are gonna either be very rich, the very small percentage of the people, or they will die of hunger, or they will need to find something else. And I think that is very bad, because art is something which we need to appreciate. It is a talent, I mean, very, very few people were born with the talent, and I think at least more of them should be appreciated, not just the few ones who are, let's say, chosen by some art galleries, to showcase their paintings, for example. So yes, I think NFTs gave like a second chance to artists who didn't really get the reward, and I think that's very, very good thing. um, I have one more question, maybe a bit general, but I'm asking everybody this, and I think I know what will be your answer. But I am talking about. So I was thinking about utility and design. Now, when we started with NFTs in 2020, I know it wasn't in 2020, but then the boom was in 2020. Everything went into the design, okay, how cool they looked. And after that, NFTs gained utilities, let's say. Everybody started to ask, okay, it's a cool design. What is the utility? Because I don't want to buy just a JPEG, right? What do you think? If an NFT has a very high utility level, let's say you get a lot of rewards or you can use it in certain places, can a creator, let's say, make a less nice design, like a not so good design? And if an NFT has less utility, then they should go for the design. So these two, should they balance each other out? Or how do you think? What is the best way to approach? Because let's just assume, I know that I know in the perfect world we have a great design, and a great utility, but let's just say that we need to balance these two things.
I think design will always play a key role, but at the end of the day, at least it depends on how you're applying the technology. Now, in my business, I think design will always be important.
Yeah.
And I think there's a great design for many niches. And I think that's what's fun about this market. There's something for everybody. So what's a great design to me may not be a great design to you. And what's great to you may not be something that I'm interested in. And so that's number one. I think when it comes to storytelling, there's different stories that resonate with different people. And that's why for us as a platform, we actually want to be project agnostic. So even though we have our own originals, which is mostly genre agnostic, so meaning we have manga style, manhwa style, traditional comic book style, novels. We have so many different kind of angles in development when it comes to originals. We also have a crossover category, which is going to be stories that feature projects that we don't own. So partner projects, and a lot of them I think we're talking to are blue chip projects that we know will be around, because what we want to do is offer additional utility for other people's bags, because it was kind of an idea that was inspired by my own when the bear market hit this last few months. I looked at my bag, I was like, man, I love these I love this IP, but what the heck do I do with it? And so the light bulb was like, oh, what if I'm pretty sure a lot of other people are feeling this way. So what if we actually offered utility for other people's IP? And so we just made our announcement on this past Monday with our first book, Age of Valar, which will feature characters from the world of Azuki. And so that's pretty fun. And so we have a few more lined up already. And so obviously announcements will come when they come. But that's one of our goals is to be a NFT project agnostic platform.
Very nice. Thank you very much for your answer. Last question. What is the next big step for the project? What is and I don't mean like an announcement. I mean, what is the next step, which will be a milestone, when you will see like, okay, from here, we will have a new horizon, a new big objective or a new goal?
I think we have a really big vision for our reader. When we were able to say this is our reader and launch all the ideas we have and make it fully operational, I would be really happy. Currently, if you own a Biplane Bobo NFT, you could actually go onto our website and connect your wallet and kind of preview the beta reader. Our goal is to make sure our reader really stands out when it comes to what's out there. And I think that will be a big milestone, because by then, my hope is then, the comic book industry will acknowledge that we're doing something for it that will service it into the future. And we're also not in a hurry at the same time, where we're not trying to do the quantity thing. Like we are putting a lot of marketing support for each of our comics because we actually believe in them. And so our goal is really to promote them in big ways. So yeah, I think I would say once our reader gets out there, I think that's kind of when I would say, oh wow, we're here.
Well, I can't wait to see that, and I hope that you reach that as soon as possible. I would like to thank you. I don't have any more questions. Thank you very much for taking the time, for being here. And yeah, I do hope that we can chat again sometime soon.
Let's do it, Zabi. Thank you so much.
Everyone, you can find all the links to 24/7 Comics in the description of this podcast. Thank you for listening in, and see you in the next episode.